In this video, I'm going to examine the Harry Fips angle in the abduction of the Beaumont children. I've already made a previous video on the locations associated with the Beaumont children's abduction on January 26, 1966 from Glenelg Beach. But in this video I'm going to focus on Harry Fips, who is the prime suspect in the abduction of the Beaumont children. Just a disclaimer, these are allegations and been proven in a court of law. Harry Fips was never charged with any crime in relation to the Beaumont children, just to make that clear, but there's no doubt that when weighing up the evidence, Phipps is right at the top of the tree as a suspect in the abduction of the Beaumont children. Now, the name Phipps came associated with the abduction of the Beaumont children quite late. It wasn't until 2006 that his name appeared, and that was 2 years after his death. It came about after the publication of the book Searching for the Beaumont Children by Alan Whitaker. In June 2006, Whitaker is contacted by a woman named Angela Fife, who is the ex-wife of Hayden Phipps, and Hayden being the son of Harry Fips. Hayden had confessed to Angela that he had strong suspicions that Harry, his father, was the abductor of the Beaumont children. Hayden also said to Angela that Harry had sexually abused him when he was just a child. Then when they were watching a TV documentary on the Beaumont children's abduction, Hayden told Angela that he believed his father had something to do with it, and that, in Hayden's words, quote, "they are in the pit," end quote. Another factor that contributed to their suspicion that Harry was involved was the fact that Harry Fips was known as someone who tipped people with £1 notes, a substantial amount of money back in 1966, and of course the £1 note is extremely crucial and relevant to the Beaumont children's abduction. Now this angle and the conversations with Angela Fife and Hayden Phipps became the basis of a 2013 book called The Saturn Man by Alan Whitaker and Stuart Mullins. And from here, the investigation into the Harry Fips angle took off. Before we go onto the ground to see the locations in person, I'll show you Google Maps to put everything in perspective. So we'll start with Glenelg and Glenelg East, and the home of Harry Fips in relation to the abduction of the Beaumont children. So this is Glenelg, the Glenelg Beach area. That's Glenelg Beach here, Mosley Square here. So Harry Phipps's home is right here. I'm going to zoom this in a bit. Right here on Augusta Street, though on Google Maps it tells me it's 5 Torrens Square. Now the actual address of Phipps's former home confused the hell out of me originally, and I was actually in the wrong place initially, thinking this house here on the corner was Phipps's, but it's here on what is Google Maps tells me is 5 Torrens Square, though it's on Augusta Street, which is actually Glenelg East. So this is where Harry Fips lived. Now the Beaumont children were last seen playing, let me get this right, in this vicinity here, which is the Glenelg foreshore, Glenelg Beach. Very different today than it was in 1966, but around here is where the Beaumont children were playing. And then afterwards, they walked to the change rooms with an unknown man. The change rooms are in around this location here, and Harry Phipps's house is just here. So you can see how close. We're talking, well, that's well less than a kilometre. Half a kilometre from Phipps's house is where the Beaumont children were seen playing. The last sighting of the Beaumont children was at Wenzel's Bakery. Now Wenzel's Bakery was just down here on Mosley Street. So in this location here was where the Wenzel's Bakery was in Glenelg, where the Beaumont children were last seen buying lunch with a £1 note. And if I just zoom out a bit, so Harry Phipps's house, here's Wenzel's. You just go up Sussex Street and boom, there's Harry Phipps's house again. No more than 500 metres away, if that, less even. In fact, yeah, it would be a lot less than that. Well, a fair bit less than that. So that's the locations of Glenelg and Harry Phipps's home in relation to the abduction of the Beaumont children. I am in Augusta Street, Glenelg East, the former home of Harry Fips. The house located on the corner of Sussex Street and Augusta Street, as you can see right there. That's the former home of Harry Fips. Now, Harry Fips was actually born Frederick Henry Phipps on July 1st, 1917, making him 48 years old at the time of the Beaumont abduction. And he died on February the 17th, 2004, at the age of 87. This house was named Isola, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Italian, I believe, for island, and it was built by his father. Now, Phipps's mother, Katie, aka Kitty, was described as a domineering woman, and who actually raised Harry as a girl for the first years, because I believe she was disappointed that she didn't have a daughter. Now, Phipps left school at 16 to work. He attended night school to study engineering. He went to work for Sega Manufacturing, where he designed a grease gun, and that sold very well, and Harry was promoted, and off he was and away into his business career. In 1942, Phipps married Olga Waters and had two sons, Hayden and Wayne. Okay, we're now on Sussex Street, on the side of Harry Phipps's former home. Now, on January 26, 1966, of course, that was the day that the Beaumont children were abducted. Now, Hayden Phipps, Harry's son, was age 15, and he says he came home on that day at lunchtime from his part-time job at the local bowling alley. Now, he said he went into the cubby house in the backyard with a friend to have some cigarettes. Backyard would be around that area there. This is going way back, of course, but a bit hard to see with all the cars and fences. But now, Hayden said that between 12 p.m. and 12:30 p.m. he sees the Beaumont children come into the backyard from the front of this house with Harry Fips. Harry and the children went inside, and he never saw the children come out. Hayden said 20 minutes later, Harry came out minus the children, got into a car and drove off. Hayden says soon after, he went into the house, but there was no sign of the children. So that happened allegedly here at Harry Phipps's former home. Okay, so at the front of Harry Phipps's former house, I just want to take you for a bit of a walk and show you the alleyways that Harry Fips may have used to abduct the Beaumont children with. So we're walking alongside Harry Phipps's old house, which is to the right of camera. Now, here on the side, here in Sussex Street, there is entrance to the backyard. So this is the side gate to Phipps's old house. Now, just across the road, lo and behold, is an alleyway. An alleyway that was here in 1966. Let's go down it. It's across Sussex Street. If Harry lured the children from Glenelg Beach, so we'll just pan back around and show you in relation to everything. So that's Harry Phipps's old house there, side entrance. Into the alleyway we go. Yeah, so if Harry Fips did lure the Beaumont children away from Glenelg Beach, then he undoubtedly could have used these alleyways. Now we're only a few hundred meters from Collie Reserve and from where the Beaumont children were playing before their abduction, so no more than 300 meters away. Now there's only one alley that stands today, but in 1966, at the time of the Beaumont children's abduction, there was a second alleyway. Now I'm emerging into Durham Street, which runs off Sussex Street. Now there is no alleyway here today, it's all been built and changed, but in 1966 there was a second alleyway which led from Durham Street into the next road over, which is Collie Terrace. But as I said, it's no longer there. But that beyond these buildings lies Collie Reserve and Glenelg Beach. So once again, I'm in Durham Street, and this alleyway leads into Sussex Street and the home of Harry Fips. So as there's no alleyway here today, I'm going to have to walk into Augusta Street, turn right, and that'll take me into Collie Terrace. Okay, so now I'm in Collie Terrace, just next to Collie Reserve. So the old alleyway would have emerged into this street here. And if I just pan around, Augusta Street is just on that corner there. And to show you how close we are, if I just move the camera around here, so here's Collie Reserve, Glenelg Beach. The Beaumont children last seen over in that direction. But that just shows you how close Harry Phipps's home was. So if Harry Fips was the abductor of the Beaumont children, Beaumont children were probably last seen around where that new apartment building is. None of this was here in 1966, that's for sure. Completely different. But where that apartment building is now, the Beaumont children were seen with a man, and he could have easily walked across this reserve into the alleyways and into Phipps's home. So Glenelg Beach, Beaumont children last seen playing in that vicinity. I then walked across to what was the old change rooms in this area, obviously long gone. And if Harry Fips was the abductor, I'll show you how close his house was to all this. You can see it from here. Move up a bit closer towards the rotunda. As I said, it's only a few hundred meters away from where the Beaumont children were playing on the beach. It's a bit hard to see with these trees and cars and what have you, but I'll just move around here a bit. Always some obstructions in the way. Yeah, so as far as zoom in, so that's Phipps's house right on the corner there. I'll be able to read the street sign, which is Augusta, or Sussex, sorry. I can't get any closer. So Harry Phipps's house is right there, just along Augusta Street. You can see how close it was to where the Beaumont children were last seen playing at Glenelg Beach before where they were finally last seen at Wenzel's Bakery. Now on Mosley Street, just thought I'd point this out. Hello Harry burger joint right across from the old Wenzel's Bakery. Thought that's rather ironic for what I'm doing. Anyway, so this is the former location of Wenzel's Bakery on Mosley Street, where the Beaumont children were last seen. They bought lunch here, they left here. Now I'm going to show you how close how this location is to Harry Phipps's place. So we'll turn off Mosley Street into Jetty Road and walk a short distance up here, and we'll come along to Sussex Street,
So this is just to show you how closely the Wenzel's Bakery was to Harry Phipps's house. Of course, Wenzel's Bakery was the last time anyone ever saw the Beaumont children again, other than, of course, their abductor. So if I just walk over here a bit, that is where this tram blocks me. Yeah, so there's Sussex Street, which leads to Augusta Street and Phipps's former home. So I'm now in Sussex Street, coming off Jetty Road, where we just were a moment ago, and we'll walk down Sussex Street to Phipps's old place, which is just down the road here, very short distance. Now, one of the things that shoots Harry Phipps up to the prime suspect list is the £1 note. The Beaumont children at Wenzel's Bakery bought lunch for 6 people. Well, they bought 5 pies, pasties, and they bought, I think, 6 finger buns along with soft drinks. Enough for 6 people, which doesn't make much sense. There was only 3 of them, even if they're taking one home to their mum. Now, they paid for that lunch with a £1 note, which is more money than Jane Beaumont was given by her mother. So somebody's given Jane a £1 note. Now, £1 note, that's pre-decimal currency. I'm not good at that at all. I don't remember. I was born way after pre-decimal currency, but I think in 1966, £1 was quite a substantial bit of money. And Harry Fips was known for throwing around £1 notes as big tips. You know, being a wealthy, powerful man, he wanted to show that by tipping generously. So that's another indication of Phipps's connection with Jane Beaumont and the Beaumont children. It's a strong possibility. It's only a theory, but that Phipps was playing with the Beaumont children at Glenelg Beach. He somehow hid Jane Beaumont's purse, which contained her money for lunch and bus fare. Then acted like the Good Samaritan, asking people someone's stolen our money. So now the Beaumont children had no way of getting home and no money for lunch. In steps Harry Fips, who offers them to buy them lunch and their bus fare home, or even drive them home, not sure. And that is how he gets the Beaumont children to come with him. They've got no money to get home, and he's a Good Samaritan, he's a nice guy. So they walk with him back to his house, which we're just about here now. He gives them the £1 note, sends them to Wenzel's Bakery. They return to this house here, and that's the last we've ever seen of the Beaumont children. That's a theory. It's credible. So here we are, back at Augusta Street and Sussex Street and Harry Phipps's house, or former house I should say. The man's been dead now 20 years, and so you can see how close to proximity everything is. That's back up Sussex Street toward Jetty Road, again no more than 200 or 300 metres, and down there, well that's west on Augusta, is Glenelg Beach. So everything is in location to where Harry Fips used to live here at Glenelg East. Now we move on to the next main location in the Harry Fips angle, and that was his factory, the new Castalloy factory that he owned or co-owned in North Plympton, in the western suburbs of Adelaide. Now I'll just show you how, well, first of all, the theory is of course that the Beaumont children could be buried at the location of the former factory. If Harry Fips is the murderer of the Beaumont children, then that's a distinct possibility. So that's why that area has been of such interest. So on Google Maps here now, this is North Plympton. I'll show you how close it is to Glenelg, where Phipps lived. So this is North Plympton up here, and Glenelg is just down here.
Phipps' exact house. Let me just have to zoom in a bit here. So that's where the arrow is. That's Phipps' old house on Augusta Street in Glenelg. And as I said, the North Plympton, just over here near the airport. So we go to Moringi Avenue in North Plympton. And on this side here is the former new Castalloy factory. It's where it used to be, on Moringi Avenue, North Plympton. But as of today, in late 2024, this entire area is now a vacant block. So Moringi Avenue, Streeters Road runs up the side. Kincaid Avenue is at the back of the old factory. Now, the two police digs there were two separate police digs in the search for the Beaumont children. One was in November 2013 and the other was in February 2018, and they both occurred in this area here, just off Kincaid Avenue. I think the first, I'm not exactly sure, the first dig was perhaps around here. The second dig was certainly around this location here, maybe in here a bit, across the road from Sandringham Reserve. I was there that day in February 2018. Now, as I said, the factory is gone. In fact, there's nothing there at all. If we go down to Street Map, Street View, now this is, just hide that imagery. When was this? May 2023. It was still there, the old factory. If I just zoom in a bit, go up a bit, Moringi Avenue. Yeah, this was on the corner of Moringi and Streeters, and here is the old reception of New Castalloy, still there just over a year and a half ago. That's what I remember. The last time I was there before I made this footage was in 2018, and yep, the factory was there. But as I said, it's all gone now, which you would think would help the case for a third dig for the Beaumont children. There is still a push for more digging at this former factory site to see if the Beaumont children are there. And I think it'd have to be a much more extensive dig this time around. But anyway, that's in the future, so that's where the old factory was. So now we've seen everything from Google Maps. Let's now go on the ground to North Plympton.
I'm standing at formerly 76 and 92 Moringi Avenue in North Plympton, the former site of the Castalloy factory. Now, I haven't been to this location in 6 years, nearly 7 years, and the last time I was here there was a whole factory standing. But today it's all gone, and I must admit it's a bit of an interesting look to see it all completely vacated. But this was the site of the former Castalloy factory. Now I'm in North Plympton, the western suburbs of Adelaide. We're about 5 kilometres from Harry Fips' former home in Glenelg East, and we're about 7 to 8 kilometres from the city of Adelaide. A little background on the actual Castalloy factory. It was originally located in Weymouth Street in the heart of Adelaide. They produced metal casings, and the business flourished in post-World War II Adelaide, and the business became too big, so they actually moved it out here. Harry Fips was one of the co-founders of Castalloy, and in 1955 the new Castalloy factory was opened here on Moringi Avenue in North Plympton, right where you're looking. Over the course of the years from his business, Harry Fips became a wealthy man. He retired from the business in 1999, and of course, as mentioned previously, he died in 2004. In 2011, I believe Harley Davidson took over the factory, and in 2019, some 5 years ago, it closed down, and this is where we are now. Man, It's amazing to see what I remember from 2018. But this is the location, the former, well, it is the location, the former new Castalloy factory. I am now in Kincaid Avenue, which is behind the old new Castalloy factory location. It's interesting to note that the fences, the gates are still up at the back, so you cannot see in the factory grounds, the old factory grounds, from the back here. This is as I remembered it in 2018. But what led police here to the old factory? Now, in September 2013, two brothers, David and Rob Harkin, contacted investigator author Alan Whitaker and told him an incredible story. Now, in January 1966, at the time of the Beaumont abduction, the two brothers, David aged 15 and Rob aged 17, were living here in North Plympton, and their father performed plumbing contracting work at the new Castalloy factory here in the mid-1960s. Now, they said on the weekend of January the 29th, 30th, 1966, which is beginning just 3 days after the Beaumont children were abducted, when this factory was closed for the holidays, the two brothers were hired to dig a hole in the back of the factory here. The man who hired them let them in through a locked gate, supplied them with shovels, and they dug in a sandy area. Now, this took 2 days to complete over the Saturday and Sunday, 29th and 30th of January. As the two boys dug, the man who hired them came by on occasions, but only sat in his car, saying nothing and watching them. When they were done digging the hole, they were paid well by the man, and the man told them, in his colourful language, "Fuck off, you little cunts, and never come back." Now, the brothers said the appearance of the man was a bit vague for them. This was years before they had to remember, but they said the car that the man sat in resembled that of Harry Fips, and obviously Harry Fips, this was his factory. So one has to assume that it was Harry Fips who hired the boys to dig a hole in the back of this factory. I'm still on Kincaid Avenue, back of the new Castalloy factory location site. I'm now facing in a westerly direction. Now, after the story of the two brothers, David and Rob Harkin, police decided that they had to dig here. And based on the boys' story, on November the 28th, 2013, police conducted a dig at this location, at the back here of the old factory. But nothing was found. It was later ascertained that the two men had incorrectly nominated the wrong area. So the investigations continued. In collaboration with the media who got involved, a privately conducted geophysical survey was carried out at this very site, and the hole that the boys dug back in 1966 was identified. Next to it was identified a second hole, dug to the same depth and dimensions as the first hole, and what was described as an anomaly was discovered in the first hole, but none in the second, which indicated that there was something in the first hole, but nothing in the second. Armed with these results, the investigators went back to the police. Still on Kincaid Avenue, back of the former new Castalloy factory. Now, on Friday, February the 2nd, 2018, the South Australian Police conducted a second dig in the location you're looking at now, obviously behind the fence. A day I remember very well. It was an identical day to what I'm filming now. It was warm and sunny, and throughout the day the police dug, but once again nothing was found. No human remains anyway. No trace of the Beaumont children were found. But in the first hole, as I said, there were two holes, a main hole and a secondary hole. In the first hole they did find some animal bones buried to a depth of about 1 metre. Now the bones appeared to be from a horse, sheep, cow, but they weren't the whole skeleton of the animal, just various bones scattered. And of course the question is, why were there animal bones of, you know, sheep, cows and horses buried in an urban area? I mean, this is not the country, this is suburbia. So that was something curious, but the fact of the matter was, nothing was found here. On February the 2nd, 2018, and it was right around this area here. I'm just trying to remember and pinpoint. Behind these, right where you're looking now, behind these fences is where the dig happened. And at the time when nothing was found, I thought that's another chapter closed, another dead end, another red herring, but there's a strong possibility, I mean I don't know, but there's a strong possibility that the Beaumont children could still be on the grounds of this old factory site somewhere. And there's certainly still a push on for a third dig to take place, to cover deeper and much larger ground. The dimensions I don't know, but the chapter isn't closed here on Harry Fips and the old factory. And maybe one day in the near future we could all be back here for a third dig, and the possibility that the Beaumont children lie beyond those gates. Still on Kincaid Avenue at the corner of Raymond Avenue, I just want to indulge for a moment, bit of self-reflection. That day of the second dig, February the 2nd, 2018, when I was here that day when the police dug up the hole, and I remember it so well, vividly. When I heard about the second dig taking place, I thought, oh, here we go again, another red herring. I didn't get my hopes up at all at it. But when I decided to come out here and you know, hopefully be a part of history. But when I got here, there was so much activity. There was police, there was media, mass media everywhere. There were just people like me having a look. There was a real buzz in the air, and I got quite my hopes up that maybe this was the day that the Beaumont children would be found. Unfortunately it wasn't, but it was such a memorable day. And all this area here, I'm trying to remember the exact, it's nearly 7 years ago. As of this recording, it's November 2024, so it's almost 7 years since, you know, peek in here. I don't remember these trees being here when I've grown up over the time. I don't remember the exact location. Was around here behind this fence where the police were digging. I remember that media had their cranes up and they could see over the fence. I was over here. There's a little garden here on Kincaid Avenue. Now I remember standing on something. It could have been this little box here next to a tree, so I could try and see over. I can't remember if this was the exact spot. Let me get up. So yeah, I remember standing up on something next to a tree, and I could just see the top of what was going on over the fence there. And this is bringing back some vivid memories. Haven't been here since, and so really felt like a part of that day that something big was going to happen, but as I said, unfortunately it didn't. But you never know. And I remember this little park here. It was packed with the media, national media as well. Current Affair was here and doing live crosses, and in this park here, I remember the police, I think it was Inspector Hutchins gave a press conference to the assembled media on the progress of the dig, and I managed to get up close with my camera as if I was some kind of real journalist. Yeah, that was in the park here, but it's a very memorable day. back on February the 2nd, 2018. But the Harry Fips story isn't done yet, for in 2017, investigator Bill Hayes was contacted by a woman, whose name was not revealed, who had a story, and she alleged that she was raped by Harry Fips when she was just a young girl. She says in 1979, when she was aged 13, she was living on Moringay Avenue, which is just to the left of camera, and one day she visited a friend who lived down here on Kincaid Avenue, where you're looking at now, circa 4 p.m. She visited her friend, and then later that evening, between say 6:30 p.m, she began returning home. And she began walking down here on Streeters Avenue. As she walked along this road, she encountered a man who she described as if he was waiting for her. And she recognized him, as she'd seen him numerous times outside the factory, just to the right there. She would see him when she and her friend would walk by, and he would act all friendly and waving to her, as if he knew her. However, on this day, when she was by herself that evening, as she walked along here on Streeters Road, he approached her, put his arm around her shoulder, and guided her across to a vacant block, which is just up the road here. So this is the vacant block the young victim referred to on the corner of Moringay Avenue and Streeters Road, which, as you can see today, is still a vacant block. It's a car park of some description, but it's currently sealed off, so can't actually enter the grounds. But if we just pan a bit, Moringay Avenue, where the girl lived, is in the background, and to the right of camera, where that car is just driving, is Streeters Road. So yeah, getting back to the story, the man guided the young girl across into this block, and he was speaking pleasantly, but forcing her, saying how pretty she was, and he took her into this area behind dirt mounds. At the time, as I said, this was 1979, there were dirt mounds here, and he took her behind those mounds, where he then raped her. Not only did he rape her, but he sodomized her also. After he was finished with his horrific assault, she noted that his only concern was that his clothes were dirty. And after completing this attack, he simply walked away, as if nothing had happened. Now, at the time, the young girl didn't report it, but a few years later she did, and contacted the police. But the police officer she spoke to advised her that prosecution would be difficult, which is not what you want to hear when you've gone to all this trouble to report such a heinous attack, and she didn't pursue it any further. But years later, with Harry Fips dead, she saw his photo on TV and identified him as the man who had raped her right here, back in 1979. Another alleged crime in the allegedly twisted world of Harry Fips. Before I finish up here, the old new Castalloy site, back on Moringay Avenue, and obviously you can see the site a whole lot better here if I just zoom in past the wires of the fence. Where the dig took place back in 2018 was in that location around there. That's where Kincaid Avenue is. As you can see now, it's completely empty. I don't know who owns the land. I think it's, well, obviously at some point in the future, whoever buys the land will build something on it. So if a dig is to be taking place, it has to be relatively soon, you would think. I mean, this has to be the perfect opportunity now. There's no obstructions in the way. I mean, you know, you still got to dig, obviously, and digging takes time and money for the police, and I mean, they need strong evidence. I think there's enough there to warrant it. I certainly hope it happens. It's out of my hands. As I've said before, whether the Beaumont children are buried here, I certainly don't know for a fact. There's a strong possibility they could be. If they were here, would mean that Harry Fips was the killer. Is Harry Fips the killer of the Beaumont children? Again, I don't know. I would say he's definitely the strongest suspect. And the rest is in the hands of others, but I just hope we can get another dig and just maybe, the Beaumont children, missing now 58 years, could be here. As I said, if you're more interested in the subject, there's an excellent Facebook page called Unmasking the Killer of the Missing Beaumont Children that has a lot more information than I can provide in a short video. And also various books that I've mentioned are good sources of information on the Harry Fips angle as being a suspect in the missing Beaumont children. So from here on Moringa Avenue in North Plympton, my only hope is that we can one day finally resolve this agonising mystery of where and what happened to the 3 Beaumont children. Just finally, the most recent book regarding Harry Fips and the Beaumont children was released in 2022, and it's called Unmasking the Killer of the Missing Beaumont Children by Stuart Mullins and Bill Hayes. If anyone's interested in the Harry Fips perspective, yeah, that'd be the perfect book to read. It covers just about everything from the Beaumont children's abduction to all the angles regarding Harry Fips. So yeah, if you're interested in delving deeper into it, that's certainly the book I would recommend. I'd like to dedicate the following video to the 3 Beaumont children, 9-year-old Jane, 7-year-old Anna and 4-year-old Grant Beaumont, who disappeared on January 26, 1966, and some 58 years later have never been found. But also dedicate to their parents, Nancy and Jim Beaumont. The hope was that the Beaumont children would be located while both parents were still alive, but sadly that's now not the case. On September 16th, 2019, Nancy Beaumont died here in Adelaide at the age of 92. And then on April the 9th, 2023, Grant Beaumont, the father, or better known as Jim, he passed away at the age of 97, never knowing what happened to their children. So this video is for them. May they all rest in peace.